Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Jill Valley. Dennis Bragg has the night off. Governor Steve Bullock says Montana faces a very challenging and unprecedented fire season throughout the state. Today, he said local, state, and federal partners are working together to make sure all available resources are on hand to fight the 40 fires that have burned more than 800,000 acres in Montana so far.
Lisa and my thoughts and prayers are with our neighbors whose homes and businesses are being affected, and with the brave men and women who are doing an incredible job protecting Montanans and fighting these fires. The reality is Montana is in a severe drought, and the conditions are ripe for continued severe fires throughout September. This has been a long and incredibly difficult fire season, and conditions this week will continue to be challenging.
The governor has made numerous drought and disaster declarations because of the wildfires, which allows him to continue to mobilize additional state resources and the Montana National Guard to combat fires. Montana is getting more money to help in emergencies. Senator Jon Tester saying today the state is getting more than $3 million from FEMA. This is grant money that will help improve emergency and disaster response and management throughout Montana at the local, state, and tribal levels. Senator Tester says it's critical for the remainder of this fire season.
It's about connecting up with the agencies and making sure that they're doing what they can do to get manpower and equipment to these fires. But I've got to tell you, with the fires that are going on in California and Washington and in Montana and Oregon, manpower is stretched thin and so is equipment. But they've done a good job with what they've had to work with. You know, when folks work together, you can get a lot more done.
There are almost a dozen major wildfires burning now across western Montana. Take a look at this map. It's a look at all the fires that are threatening thousands of homes across our region. And today, Missoula got dense wildfire smoke, the likes of which we haven't seen this fire season at all. It was hazardous in Missoula for the first time this fire season. But that is something folks in Seeley Lake and Florence, Lolo, and the Potomac areas have been dealing with for months. At last report, Missoula was at the unhealthy levels. We're still waiting to get an update from the Montana Department of Environmental Quality. Will it get any better, though? For the latest, let's send it over to meteorologist Russ Thomas. Russ.
The answer is yes, eventually. However, I don't know for the next 24 hours it's necessarily going to be the case. Let's show you what we've got with our air quality alert. And again, this covers all of western Montana. What's happening is we have winds out of the east. It's kind of trapping the smoke within western Montana. That's going to be the case tonight. We'll start seeing maybe a little movement tomorrow. There's a little fluctuation as well in how much smoke we see. But again, this doesn't cover the entirety of western Montana. Just a quick look at our temperatures right now. 65 Missoula, 57 Hamilton, 59 in Polson. A little warmer, 71 in Thompson Falls. We'll have your complete forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
The Rice Ridge fire near Seeley Lake got very big last night, nearly doubling in size as it blew up, adding nearly 50,000 acres last night alone. It is now more than 100,000 acres in size. Fire Information Officer Mark Vosberg says most of the growth was on the eastern edge of the fire and north of Highway 200 and Cottonwood Lakes Road into the Bob Marshall Wilderness area. Officials say northeasterly winds and a cold front coming in from the divide were the key factors to this fire's large growth. Greg Ponson's Type 1 Incident Management Team is taking over management of Rice Ridge tomorrow morning. Evacuations for this fire remain unchanged in Missoula and Powell counties after new mandatory orders and warnings were issued over the weekend. The evacuation order affects all of the Coopers Lake area. The warning area is everything else north of Highway 200, with the west and east boundaries being Missoula and Lewis and Clark counties. This Rice Ridge fire has burned for nearly 2 months. Hundreds of people have already been evacuated. Many are uncertain about whether or not they're going to be able to stay in their homes. As MTN's Eric Clements reports tonight, the fire is taking its toll on the minds and bodies of Seeley Lake residents.
Seeley Lake blanketed once again under a thick layer of smoke, a specter of the Rice Ridge fire that continues to threaten this small community. And after more than 50 days, those who live here say the fire is beginning to take its toll, both physically and mentally.
When I woke up, I looked and it was over 100,000 acres, and that's scary. I leave porch lights on that I never did before, hoping that if something happens, they can find me, because I live kind of back out of the way.
Deborah Marcial moved to Seeley Lake last year. Now she's unsure whether or not she and her family will be allowed to stay. She says the uncertainty and fear is wearing her down.
I do not sleep well at all because I'm on every little noise. I'm so afraid. The biggest thing is not sleeping. So my health you know, I get tired. I lose my voice at times.
Craig Wilson is a pastor at Mission Bible Fellowship, a church in Seeley Lake. He and his family were evacuated in August, but they continue to serve the community, helping where they can.
As long as they haven't shut down the town, our family, we definitely want to be here in town helping out as best we could. Some need to stay here. They have businesses. It's their livelihood. They're working.
Deborah is one of those people.
I really got no place else to go. You know, this is our home. We have everything invested here. So I've got no place to go. There's so many people in this town that are in the same position I am. And I fear for them too. I've got relatives here that have all been evacuated. I'm on evacuation warning. So I'm luckier than they are. I can at least sleep in my own bed tonight.
In Seeley Lake, Eric Clements, MTN News.
Now, the Red Cross is continuing to operate a shelter for fire evacuees at the University Congregational Church at 405 University Avenue in Missoula for those who need a place. Evacuation orders remain unchanged tonight in Missoula and Ravalli County as the 48,000-acre Lolo Peak fire continues to burn to the west. Here's a look at the current evacuation orders and warnings. Specifics can be found on our website. MTN's Don Fisher shows us the game plan for firefighters for the rest of the week as more structures are threatened.
Fire Information Officer Todd Schroeder has been addressing the questions and concerns of residents living near the Lolo Peak fire, speaking to hundreds of folks Monday since the 3-mile spread prompted evacuations near Florence on Sunday.
So very critical weather. That had something to do with pulling the trigger on the evacs. We want to keep people safe, and it's always better to be very proactive and out there in front of those kind of situations. So that had a lot to do with the sheriff deciding to put the evacuations in place.
Schroeder says the fire has now grown to almost 50,000 acres, but there is some good news, as Monday winds blowing from the east have helped push fire away from threatened structures. But Schroeder says a simple shift of the winds could change everything.
We'll be trying to create an area where we can hopefully hook the fire and slow it down, and also create areas where we can build these burn blocks like we have in the One Horse, Sweeney Creek, Bass Creek area.
In Stevensville, Don Fisher, MTN News.
There is a Red Cross evacuation center set up at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at 100 Middle Burnt Fork Road in Stevensville. There's also a public meeting to talk about the Lolo Peak fire. It's 7 o'clock tomorrow night at the Stevensville High School. Our fire information contacts tell us it appears around a dozen homes may have been lost in the Caribou fire burning near Eureka, but they're still assessing the damage and contacting homeowners. We should know more about the losses tomorrow. That fire is still threatening hundreds of homes tonight. And the Gibraltar Ridge fire is also putting homes in harm's way. All told, more than 420 homes have been evacuated or are in pre-evacuation in the West Kootenai area, with another 400 in the Libby area. MTN's Jack Ginsburg shows us how the command post is dealing with the fires.
The Gibraltar Ridge fire that sparked on August 7th, just under 10 miles east of Eureka, has seen a lot of growth lately. However, that growth has been to the east, towards the backcountry, rather than towards town where homes would be threatened.
This incident command post and fire camp has been set up here since mid-August for the Gibraltar Ridge fire. However, last week, it also became the management post for the Caribou fire.
The Caribou fire, burning 20 miles northeast from Eureka, rapidly expanded Friday evening, growing more than 1,500 acres overnight, making it the Type 2 team's main priority. The fire claimed an unverified amount of structures in the West Kootenai area before hotshots were sent in on Saturday night, which resulted in the preservation of multiple homes and structures.
Saturday night, we got 2 hotshot crews. And we took advantage of that Type 1 experience along with our bulldozers, and throughout the night we put in that initial line and did some limiting firing to hold that line, and we must have saved hundreds of structures.
With warm temperatures, low humidity, and a red flag warning in effect tonight, there seems to be no end to this fire in the near future.
Moving forward, there doesn't seem to be too much relief in sight. Continued drought conditions, continued limited weather. And so we're going to continue to ramp up. We're taking this fire really seriously, and we're attacking it as hard as we can.
With the amount of structures being threatened and some already lost, the Caribou fire has been bumped up to the #1 priority in the nation for resources needed. Habeck says in the wake of the unprecedented fire season, they have had trouble getting support, but hopes that will change so they can keep the fire from destroying any more structures or valuables.
We're hoping to get more crews, engines, and overhead like aerial support helicopters and retardant that come into the area to protect the values. We really understand what's important up here, people's structures, people's grass, and people's timber. And we're doing everything we can to keep the fire on the hill, and we're looking for those opportunities to get it and keep it up on the hill.
Reporting in Eureka, Jack Ginsburg, MTN News.
Now, the Sprague fire that prompted evacuations over the weekend on the west side of Glacier National Park has grown to more than 13,000 acres tonight. The current evacuation area includes the Lake McDonald Lodge area, the Sprague Creek Campground, the Avalanche Campground, and about 55 private homes. As MTN's Nicole Miller reports, while the fire didn't reach the Lake McDonald Lodge area overnight, fire managers say it's not in the clear yet.
Again, last night the fire nearly doubled in size, but the good news is it did not get as far as we thought it might.
Glacier National Park's Lake McDonald Lodge did not see the Sprague fire reach it overnight. 45-mile-an-hour winds drove it down the north side of Mount Brown, where the fire is now threatening 500-year-old cedar forests.
The fire did move quite a bit westerly. And it kind of checked up against a different tree species regime. It's checked up against the cedar hemlocks. It was in kind of more of a spruce fir, and it moved further south into the Walton drainage.
And while the fire didn't reach Lake McDonald Lodge, fire managers are still concerned it could and taking every precaution.
East wind driven fire is rare, so we are assessing what's going on, making sure that we have our plan intact. The folks are out still doing some structure protection around the North Lake McDonald area and the Avalanche Creek area.
Here at the fire camp, a Type 2 Incident Command team is stationed with about 127 members. And not only are they stationed here, but all of the supplies they're using to fight the fire are as well. Local Flathead Valley fire departments are using supplies like hoses and sprinklers to protect the lodge if the fire does reach it.
We've had great county and state assist on this fire. We have several local fire departments, structural departments out helping us in the Lake McDonald Lodge complex area, and that is making a huge difference.
Reporting from Glacier National Park, Nicole Miller, MTN News.
We have more fire watch coverage to come, including other fires burning in western Montana tonight, but we have to take a break. We'll also talk more about the smoke and our fire weather forecast. By the way, this is what it looked like about 8 o'clock this morning from our St. Patrick iCam when the smoke was at its worst. We'll take a look at that when we come back with meteorologist Russ Thomas.